Hey everybody, I'm Matt from the Creator Team, and you're watching our weekly workshop. Last week, we started out with a survey example where people could fill out their name, their favorite color, and their favorite pizza topping, and we stored that using Shitsu in a Google spreadsheet. This week, we're going to add some functionality to that app. So the first thing we're going to add is a results page that allows you to view all the surveys that have already been submitted. We're also going to allow you to delete survey results from that list. Then we're going to add a search screen where you can actually narrow down and search for different survey results based on name, color, and pizza topping. So this week, we're actually going to go through a lot of different features of Creator. We're going to use buttons and headers. We're using list item delete buttons. We're using route parameters that are optional as well as have default values. And we're also going to use the Ion refresher component from Ionic through our HTML component. So we're going to go through a lot of stuff. So this might be a little bit of a longer video, but I'm hoping you stick with it and so I can show you how to use this Shitsu API to start making a very full-featured app. Now, like I said in the last video, all of these techniques can be used with a variety of APIs. You don't have to stick with Shitsu. You don't have to stick with Google Spreadsheets. You can use all this same information with any API you'd like, even one that maybe is coming off your own server. So let's get started with this results page. So we're going to switch over to our results page here. And last week, we didn't do anything with this page yet. So right off the bat, I'm going to want to start designing what this page looks like. Okay, so we are going to actually use, let's use an avatar list item here. Now, like before, I like full width lists. So on this page, we are actually going to remove padding so that those list items go full width. And then for each list item here, we are going to want the person's name that filled it out, what their favorite pizza topping is, and then instead of a picture here, we're going to make that into the color that they chose as their favorite color. So now the first thing we need to do is get access to all this information through the results controller. So we are going to set scope.surveys equal to an empty list, okay? And then we're going to do a function on scope called scope.loadData equals a function, and here is where we are going to actually get our data. So let's import the surveys controller that we've been using, okay? And we'll just double check that that is actually singular, not plural. So the service is actually called survey. So let's get rid of that S. Okay, and here we are going to want to kick off survey.all, which is a function we already programmed that returns all of the results from our Google spreadsheet. So it's going to return George's line here and Frank's line as well. So survey.all, and then that returns a promise, so we can use .then function, and this returns a result, okay? And we'll set scope.surveys equal to the result that it passes back. Now, the reason I put this in a function is for that refresher that we're going to add later on so that the refresher can actually call this function. But right away, we're just going to want to call scope.loadData so this page has the data right away when the page loads. So let's save that. And then on this item, we're going to add some directives. Okay, we're going to add ng repeat, survey in surveys, and this API is actually going to return the surveys as they are ordered in the database, which is actually oldest to newest. But we probably want the newest survey results at the top. So we are going to use a pipe to add a filter here. Okay, and that filter is going to be order by. Okay, and that order by, we are actually going to pass it using a colon, and then a string, the minus symbol, and end string. And what this is going to do is it's actually going to reverse the order of the array that is passed in. So it's going to take surveys, order by negative, reverse it, and then set survey to every single survey for this thing. Okay, so now that we have access to our survey information, we can go to our content here, and here we can put survey.name. And for line 2, we can put likes, survey.favorite underscore pizza. So it's going to say like Mike likes pepperoni, okay? Now, let's actually test this just to make sure we're working so far. So let's preview. We're going to give it a second to get the results from our database. It should pop up in a minute here. So we see Frank likes pepperoni, George likes sausage. So far, so good. So let's get the color to show up here. So the next thing we're going to want to do is I'm going to do something a little bit weird. We're going to actually set style, and we're going to do background color is template tags survey.favorite _ color and template tags and then a semicolon. But we're not going to want this on the parent element. Okay, we're going to want to click this and move it to the image. So that image, which would normally be a profile image, is going to have background color survey.favorite color. We can save and close that. So now if we preview, we should see the colored circle for each survey result from our database. So Frank chose orange, George chose pink. Okay. So now that we have that all set up, we're displaying our survey results straight from the database. We're going to want to actually add the ability for you to remove those survey results. Now, this gets a little bit more complex, so bear with me as we are going to add a button to the header to turn on a universal delete button for all of these list items. So the first thing we're going to want to do is select the page and start adding our list item remove button. So we're going to enable the left header button. We are going to change it to a minus symbol, okay? And we are going to make sure that this is just styled regularly right here. We don't want to style it as a button. That way it's a nice large minus symbol. Okay, now that that button is there, we're actually going to want to go to our list here, the overall list, not the list item, and we can see that we have access to delete and reorder buttons. Now these are slightly complicated. They do have their own tutorial if you want to follow along with a separate tutorial there. However, this one we're going to do pretty simple. We need to set the delete button to actually be a variable that we toggle on and off, which will toggle on and off the delete buttons for all of our list items. So back down in our controller here, we are going to add scope.showDelete equals false, okay, and scope.toggleDelete equals a function. And in that function, we are just going to do scope.showDelete equals the reverse of scope.showDelete, so it'll toggle it on and off. Okay, so make sure you save those changes. And now we're going to need to do two things. We are going to give the delete function the variable showDelete, and it's going to use that variable, whether or not it's true or false, to show the delete button. And then we are going to need to rig up the actual button from the page to this toggle delete function. So click on the page, and we're going to go down to Angular directives here and add an ng-click toggle delete, okay? And we are yet again going to move this directive to the actual delete button that has that Ion iOS minus outline tag on it. So Ion nav button side left, this button, that's where we're putting the directive. We're going to save and close that. So now, if all goes well, they're not going to do anything yet, but we should be able to preview. We'll wait for the results to load here. And as I click delete, you can see those delete buttons pop up for each individual item, and they toggle on and off. So now let's make those delete buttons actually remove the item. Okay, so we do not have a remove function in our API yet, but I'm going to write some code ahead of time here. Okay, we are going to just set scope.delete item equals to a function, and we are going to pass the index of the item from this original list, okay? And here's where we're going to call that delete function from the service that we're going to write in a minute. But first, let's rig up this function to a button. So let's click on your list item. And now it's a little bit interesting. So let's back up 2 seconds, actually. So the list enabled the delete items for each individual list item. But the list item is in control of what those buttons do. Because once we go over here and add a directive for ng-click, we're going to do delete item and pass $index. Now, $index is coming from this ng repeat survey and surveys. The index is just like 0, 1, 2, 3, the index in the actual list. So we are going to move this directive all the way down to the Ion delete button that was created by the parent list, but in the list item. So our Ion delete button in the list item now has ng-click delete item $index. Save and close that, okay? Now we could test this if we want. We could alert $index. Okay, save that. And then as we preview this here and wait for the results to load, we can see that once we get these results, let's going on here? Is it just taking a long time? All right, so our results loaded. We can see that we can toggle on this delete button, hit minus, and we get 0 as the index back. Hit minus here, we get 1 as the index back. So we know that that's actually passing the index to this delete item function. Now, let's move over to our services here. And you might notice that this looks a little bit different than our first tutorial. If you go to github.usecreator.com, that's where you can find the code that I'm using in this tutorial and the previous tutorial. We changed the way the promises work. So we no longer import $Q. We instead use promise chaining, where we return the data we want to this promise, which can then be used as a promise later. So this code is slightly different. You can find that in github.usecreator.com. But what we're going to do here is we're going to add a delete function. Okay, in that delete function, we are actually going to pass it an ID. So we're going to pass that ID to the delete function. And this one's going to be super simple. So let's go to the spreadsheet API here. This is on Sheetsu's documentation, and look up the delete function. And we can see the delete function is our standard API URL, okay, where a column equals a value, it is going to delete that entry, okay? So back here, we can do return http.delete, okay? So we're just using the delete HTTP type here. Our API URL plus /ID, we're going to delete on that ID field, where that ID is equal to the ID that was passed to this function. So this is really simple. Call off a delete function to API URL /ID / the ID we passed to it. Okay, so we can see this capital delete here. That's kind of letting us know which kind of HTTP we're using, which is that delete, that post, that get. Okay, so we're going to save the changes to our API, go back to our results, and here we're going to do a couple different things. Okay, let me scroll down here. Okay, so we are going to call survey.delete scope.surveys $index. So we're getting the actual information from scope.surveys.id. So the index we pass to this function, grab the ID from that, that's what we're going to delete. Then after it's deleted, and the reason we actually pass the index is now we want to remove that from our list. Okay, we don't want to recall and go to the database and get a whole new version of the list. We're just going to remove this list item, okay, from the actual list that we've maintained locally. So we're going to do scope.surveys.splice $index -1, and we're taking one element off. Okay. Now, if we save this, what should happen is we will get a delete response from the database, which will remove it from our spreadsheet over here. Okay. And then we will take it off of our actual list so it disappears from the app. Okay. So let's preview this and wait for the stuff to load here. And then we will delete Frank. So now that request went off to the database, and once it comes back, you can see that it gets removed from our actual list here. Now, I want to show you something a little interesting about the Sheetsu API. Other APIs are going to behave differently. You know, this is kind of your mileage may vary for whatever API you're using. If we preview now that has been deleted, and we wait for the data to load, we're going to get something a little bit unexpected. Now we have a blank value here. Frank likes pepperoni, but we got a blank value. Now, why does that blank value exist? Let's look at our database. We can see our database here deleted the row, but the row still exists. And Sheetsu doesn't care whether or not there's valid data here because it's a very simple API. So we want to make sure that we don't show any empty rows in our .all function, okay? So let's go back to the services API here. And I'm going to create a new function called function. We're going to do filter blank rows. And we're going to pass this an actual list of results. So we'll do res here, or we'll call that L. Okay. And so here we are going to use the list filter function to remove anything that has a blank ID. Okay. So we're going to do return L.filter function. For each object, we are going to return true or false based on whether or not object.id is not equal to a blank ID. Okay. So what this is going to do, we are going to filter it based on true or false, whether or not an ID is equal to nothing. Now, we're going to need to edit our all function to use that. So we are going to do here, we're going to do var results equals filter blank rows resp.data. And then we're going to change all of our resp.data here to results. Okay, so there's a couple different places we have to modify this. Okay, this one as well. Put results. Now, when we load this, the API will still be returning blank rows, but our service is not going to return them to whatever calls.all. So as we refresh here, we should see that we only get Frank, we don't get the blank row. All right, so now we've got something that shows all the survey results. You can delete them, and we make sure we don't show blank results. So let's move on to the next step. I want to show you guys how to use an advanced search feature so we can build a search page that lets you filter based on name, favorite pizza, favorite color, anything you want. And we are going to do that in this other search page. Okay, so let's start off by building this search pages form. Okay, so I am going to drag over just a regular old input box here. We're going to call this one name. Then I am going to drag over 2 select boxes, okay? One there, one here. And we are going to let you choose a favorite color from a dropdown, as well as favorite pizza from a dropdown. Now each of these, I'm just going to go ahead and add some options here. So for favorite color, we are going to use the same colors that we used in our other dropdown, but we're going to add one to the top, which is any color. Because by default, we don't actually want to have a filter. So any color, then we're going to do green, yellow, we are going to do orange, pink, blue, and black. Okay, and then for favorite pizza toppings, we are going to do any topping. Then we are going to add sausage, pepperoni, and cheese. Okay, now after all of this form here, we're going to do a button. And I like to make any kind of my buttons a separate color, so we're going to change that to green. And this button is going to say Find Matching Surveys. Now, let's go to our search controller here, and I want to start rigging this up to some temporary data that we can then send to the other page. Okay, so what we are going to do here is we are going to do scope.fields equals name is set to nothing by default. Okay, favorite color is set to any color by default. Favorite pizza is set to any topping by default. All right, so let's rig this up to the data. So I like showing you guys that the data is actually rigged up to something. So let's actually show fields down here as we're working. In this name, we are going to add ng-model is equal to fields.name. For favorite color, we are going to do ng-model is equal to fields.favorite color. And for here, same kind of thing, ng-model is equal to fields.any-topping. Okay, so let's preview this. And we can see that name is nothing, favorite color is any color, favorite pizza is any topping. We could put Joe here, automatically updates. We could put orange. And here I must have spelled something wrong. Maybe pepperoni is a default. Let's see why. Favorite pizza. Oh, I put fields.any-topping. Definitely meant fields.favorite pizza here. All right, so if we preview that, any topping should be the default here, and favorite pizza should update to pepperoni there. All right, so that's all good to go. So now that we have this temporary data here, I'll delete fields. We don't need that anymore. We're going to want to pass this somewhere. Now, I've already got a results page, and I don't want to have to reprogram an entire results page just to show you these search results. So what we're going to do is we are actually going to go to our results page, and we are going to add some route parameters to this page. So we're going to add a name route parameter, a favorite color route parameter, and a favorite topping route parameter. The default value for these, I'm going to leave blank. So the default value is actually going to be an empty string when you just visit the results page. So now, even though this page has route parameters now, if I preview results, it's going to get no parameters. We're not even really doing anything right now, but it's actually going to go out, get the survey results that we currently have from the database, and show them here. If it could load, my connection must just be a little bit slow right now. There we go. Frank likes pepperoni. All right, so now we want to send these over to that other page. Okay, so we are going to want to do scope.search is a function. Okay, but the thing is, I don't want to send any color or any topping over to this page because those don't actually exist. So we are going to do var params is an object where name equals scope.fields.name. Okay, we're pulling it from that other object. And then we're going to do if scope.fields.favoriteColor is not equal to any color, then we are going to add it to params. So we'll do params.favoriteColor equals scope.fields.favoriteColor. And we're going to do that same thing for favorite pizza. So let's just actually copy this. And this is favorite pizza. Okay, change this to favorite pizza, change this to favorite pizza, and then the default's not any color, it's any topping. So now we have a params object that has a name and potentially has favorite color or favorite pizza. We're going to want to use state.go to send you to the other page. So we're going to import state first of all, and we're going to do state.go. Now, I actually don't know the UI sref of the page that we're sending you to. So results page is selected. And you can see up at the top by the title here, you can see the state or sref is equal to tabs controller.results. So we're going to copy this and tell state.go that, whoops, I used a, whoa, if I could type right, dot results. That's where we want to go. And we want to pass these parameters to that page. So we're going to hit save. Now, over on our results page, we want to make sure that these results are actually getting sent. So just to show you guys that they are, we are going to want to do, I'm just going to create a dummy variable here and do scope.params equals state params, okay, and save that. And then put a paragraph at the bottom here that says params. All right, so let's go to our search page. Let's preview this and let's see how we're doing. Okay, so name, Bob, favorite color, orange, favorite pizza, pepperoni, find matching surveys. We actually didn't link the button up to the search. So let's do add an Angular directive to the button, ng click. Is going to be that search parentheses function that we did earlier. Okay, let's preview that. Bob, orange, pepperoni, find matching results. And we see we got name Bob, favorite color orange, favorite topping is nothing. We must have not passed that correctly. Let's look at our search results here. Favorite underscore pizza. Favorite underscore pizza. Results. Page is, I put favorite topping. So favorite pizza instead of favorite topping. All right, because it's only going to accept. So good thing to know here. If you pass parameters to a page and you haven't defined them, they're not going to get to the page. You have to make sure you define them in here correctly. So favorite pizza, not favorite topping. Now if we go to search, and we'll do a simple one here. We're just going to set topping to pepperoni and make sure it goes through. We will get favorite pizza pepperoni. Okay, and we go back to those results. Now the interesting thing is the results page here still exists, and that's still going to go and get all the results. But here we are linking to that same page, but we're staying in the search tab with a back button back to our search page. Okay, and that's all handled automatically by Creator for you. All right, so now that we've set this stuff, let's go to results and let's first of all delete this little indicator here that helped us out. And let's add in the ability to, instead of all, let's add a query option, okay, that uses these parameters that we've sent as the query. So let's go back to the Shih documentation here, scroll all the way up, and here let's see, they have get/search. So let's see what get/search does. It's our standard API /search. And it says that we can have column and names in each request handled as get parameters. So here's how it looks. It looks question mark, whatever we're looking at equals whatever we want it to equal, and more different options as we go along. So we need to turn those route parameters into a request like this that we handle through our service. So let's go back here, and let's go back down to our service, and let's start adding search function. And here, let me just make sure I'm copying things over right. That search will take params, okay? Now, we are going to go to results here, and we're going to change this load data function, okay? So we're going to do an if statement on whether or not we have been passed any parameter equal to an option that is not blank. So we will do scope.params.name or scope.params.favorite color or scope.params.favorite pizza. So if any of these options have a value other than nothing, we're going to want to call a separate function. We're going to want to call survey.query. Okay, we're going to pass those scope.params to it. Then function. And that function, just like all, is going to get a response where we do scope.surveys equals that response. So we're doing almost the same thing, but we're sending off to query instead of all. So let's go to services and let's write this. Oh, whoops, I called it search. So let's call this query. Query function params. Okay, and we have to turn the object that we've gotten into a URL that we can send. Okay, so we're going to do var actual params is equal to a list. And you'll see what I'm doing in just a second here. We're going to do for var the key in the params we've been sent. We're going to do if params k. So if the value of every param, if it's not blank, we're going to do actual params.push. So we're pushing an item onto this list where k plus the equals sign plus params k. So that will do, name is equal to Bob. We're adding that to this list. So at the end of this, we have a list full of our parameters. So let's set actual params. We're going to overwrite it here is equal to a question mark plus actual params dot join with the ampersand. Okay, so this will create question mark name equals Bob and favorite color equals orange. Okay, we're building this URL that we're going to send to Shitsu. So now Shitsu said that it was a GET request to /search with this data at the end of it. So we are going to return http.get our API URL from above plus /search plus actual params that we are going to send. Then function resp return filter blank rows, just like we did in our other query. We don't want any blank rows to be returned just in case. Resp.data. And we're going to save that. All right, so if all goes well, we're going to pass an object, turn it into like a URL like string, send off a search request, and get no blank rows back. And then we're going to display that in our result here. So if anything is sent, we're going to query to this function and get everything back from the database. Okay, so let's look at our database real quick. Right now, we have Frank, orange, and pepperoni. Let's add a couple of results in here manually. So I'm going to add 4. Bob, his favorite color is actually yellow. He likes sausage. Okay, and let's have some overlap here. So let's do 6. His name is, or her name is Sally. Let's do an overlap here. So let's make 2 of them have yellow, and let's make 2 of them have pepperoni. Okay, so now we've got 3 results in there in our database. So let's just go to our results page. Let's preview it, make sure all 3 of them load and that they look appropriate so I know my data in the database looks good. So Sally likes pepperoni, Frank likes pepperoni too, but his favorite color is orange. Bob likes sausage, but these 2 are both yellow. Okay, so let's go through. Actually, I can just preview there. Let's go over to the search tab and let's do favorite color yellow. Now yellow is going to get passed to that other page. We're going to call .query and we should hopefully only get back the 2 people that have yellow. Now we could also do yellow, but name is Sally, and send this off. That should only get us the 1 result. Now we can get rid of Sally here, change yellow to any color, change our topping to pepperoni, hit search, and we should only get back the 2 people that like pepperoni. So as you can see, we could even do 2 here. We could do pepperoni and yellow, find matching survey results. We only get back the 1 correct result. Now, this still works with our delete functionality and everything because we use the same controller. Both of these results page are tied to the same place. Now, you might say, maybe we deleted one of these and I want to refresh my results. So the last thing I want to show you today is our pull to refresh functionality that you can get on any list. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. On the results page, we are actually going to add an HTML snippet. All right, let's actually take the list. Okay, we're going to move this list below HTML. There we go. Okay, so move the list to below HTML. Now we have this HTML at the top, right? But we don't want this p tag. We don't want anything here. We are going to want to use the Ion refresher element from the Ionic 1 docs. So all I did here was I Googled for Ion refresher from Ionic, or you can go to our docs, see all the different things that are available to you. And we can see that Ion refresher has to be the first thing inside of Ion content. okay? And that then we have to give it an onRefresh function, some pull down text, and then we also, on that refresh function, have to make sure we broadcast a scroll.refresh complete. So let's do all those things. Let's go and do this. Okay, so Ion refresher, okay, and here we want pulling dash text equal to pull to refresh, and we will do on refresh is equal to that load data function that we have in results. So results.load data. We're just going to recall that load data function. Okay. So now we need to go here, and we also need to broadcast that event that they wanted to broadcast. So let's just copy this straight from the doc. Scope.broadcast scroll.refresh complete. We're going to add that to both of our callbacks here. All right, so let's preview. Okay, and here's our results page. And just to show you this, we have Sally, we have Frank, we have Bob. Let's go here and let's just manually delete Frank from the database without deleting from here, so we know Frank is still there. Now when we pull and refresh, we're going to see that refresh icon as it goes there. It refreshes, and now we have our new list. We can do this same way where if we add Matt's favorite color is orange, she likes cheese pizza, submit, we wait for that to respond. Now our results page doesn't know about Matt yet. So we refresh, and now Matt, orange, likes cheese is at the top of the list. So overall, we did a lot of stuff in this tutorial, but our survey app is getting very close to complete, okay? Now we have a results page that shows you all the results. We can delete those results. We can actually search and narrow down those results from the Sheets.U API. So we're very close to done. In the next tutorial series, I'm going to show you how to do some stuff like maybe error handling. We're going to do a few minor tweaks to this, and then we're going to call it a complete app. So overall, I hope you've enjoyed kind of this second part of our APIs series, and I look forward to catching you guys next week.